Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing in sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So out there on Twitter, there's an account, someone who's a Tank Davis fan, called GTD Promotions. But anyway, he put together that I thought was pretty interesting, a little Excel spreadsheet where they kind of break down Gervonta Davis and the pay-per-view numbers. Now, the thing about it is when you look at Tank Davis and how he's performed when it comes to pay-per-view numbers, what we're trying to do is kind of predict what is going to happen with Tank Davis in the future when it comes to pay-per-view events. And when we take a look at this, for me, I'm all about trying to identify trending patterns. Okay, so when you look at from 2020 to where we are now in 2023, I see the buys being at 200,000, 210, right? So you see a little bit of a climb there. Then you see it kind of comes back down from 210, it kind of climbs again to 250. Then you see it kind of rescinds a little bit down to 220, right? Then you see it spikes to 1.4 million. Now, if I was sitting here studying a chart, the first thing I would do is I would circle those points on the chart where we saw little growth and then where we saw where we had a little bit of a drawback. But I would draw a huge red circle around that spike because I would have to know what was it that happened, right? For the pattern, the performance pattern to increase by over 1 million, right? That's the first thing I would do because it just jumps out at you. It's like, whoa, right? Now, the reason I'm telling you this because I've had to explain these kind of things before, not about pay-per-view, but just about, when you're talking about, data analysis. And I've sat in meetings where I've had these different charts and different graphs, and you watch them and no one's really worried about it if you see, like, for what we're talking about here in front of us, you see the buys going from 200 to 210, bubble up to 250, come down to 220. That's normal. That doesn't create any alarm, you know what I'm saying, any consternation. You're just watching that and you're like, okay, it's kind of doing what it does. As long as someone can kind of talk to, the little pitfalls and stuff, what's going on, it's not a big deal. But that spike, someone has to explain it. So when we look at that spike, we know what the explanation is. The explanation is Ryan Garcia. All right? So let's hold our horses here. Ryan Garcia has everything to do with that spike. I'm serious. So basically what we're doing right now, we're doing a retrospective. We're sitting here. The event closed out. So basically there was a deliverable. It's been delivered. Now we're closing it out. We're doing a retrospective, and we're having a discussion. And the lessons learned from this is in order to get Tank Davis and his pay-per-view numbers to perform around that 1.4 million mark, which I still think those numbers are way inflated. You know what I'm saying? That means you need to have the right dancing partner, right? And for him, it was Ryan Garcia. Going into Tank's next fight, since a lot of the boxing fans, they feel like, wow, with each fight, Tank is getting better and better. His pay-per-view numbers are growing larger and larger. Well, you can look right here and see that's not true. Okay? It depends on who he's fighting. When he fought Santa Cruz, right? Davis has a big name. He's coming out there. Mayweather pushing him. Mayweather Promotions did 200,000, right? He goes up against Barrios, challenging for another belt. We all know what Mario Barrios, man. He was a much bigger guy. Santa Cruz was smaller, but then again, it's a pretty big deal. You saw he got about 10,000 more, right? Pay-per-view buys. Then you have Rolly the Mouth Romero. All that drama, all that crap talk, Rolly Romero for the most part sold that fight. And you saw there was more attention on that fight because, one, Davis, his profile is growing, but he had the right dancing partner. They bubbled up to 250,000, which is good. Those are respectful numbers for this day and age. Then he's getting ready for Ryan Garcia. He goes to fight Hector Garcia. A lot of people didn't know who Hector Garcia was. Boxing fans like us, we knew because he tranquilized Chris Colbert. But you see, the numbers drop back down. But Tank by himself, for the most part, can pull in between 200 and 250, respectfully. But going up to 1.4 million, it's just not going to happen again. Even, and I already said I think those numbers are inflated. I think Tank's sweet spot is right around that 200 to 250,000 mark. Now, if he fights Devin Haney, I think he's going to definitely do more than what he's been averaging. I think he may get around 300. I don't think he's going to get 400,000. I think Tank can bubble up to maybe 300 because more people know of him now. He was able to attract fans from Ryan Garcia's fan base. So when you look at just being realistic about where we think, the direction we think Tank Davis is going, pay-per-view wise, look, against a guy like Devin Haney, I'm just being honest with you. Tank does not do no damn 500,000. So people who are expecting to see Tank continue to grow, or look, he kind of reached the what's that called? He reached the mountaintop with Ryan Garcia, but he's gonna have to pick the right opponent. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, that shit does not do 700,000. I don't even think it does 500,000. Tank Davis versus Devin Haney, I don't think it hits 500,000 either. I just think for Tank Davis, he's gonna be back down around that 200 to 250,000 pay-per-view buys. And if he does bubble up, I don't think it'll go over 350. And that's just not me being negative. We talk about Ryan Garcia. Who can he fight? Who can Ryan Garcia fight that can help him to continue to grow his profile as a pay-per-view star? Look, I agree. Ryan Garcia is in a tough spot as well. You know what I'm saying? He is. But it's going to be interesting to see how Tank does on his next event. Okay? It's going to be very interesting. And I'm going to say this. We're going to find out what's happening with Tank with his sentencing, right? Depending on what happens with Tank. Man, because I have a feeling he's going to the joint. Once he gets out, his next fight after he gets out is probably going to draw really big numbers because there's going to be a demand for him to see him fight, depending on how long he has to go away for. But when I say really big numbers, I'm not talking about 1 million. I think he could definitely, depending with the right opponent, he could go in and he could see him on pay-per-view and he could probably do about 400,000, 350,000. But if he goes in with a guy like Devin Haney, and Devin Haney's beating Lomachenko, you could see those numbers kind of, again, be pretty attractive. But that being said, when it comes to Gervonta Davis, he's looking to fight Pitbull Cruz. You know what I'm saying? That's what Tank Davis is looking to do. They want to come back and prove to the people that Pitbull Cruz is not better than Tank, and that fight wasn't close, and it wouldn't have been as competitive as what it seemed had Tank had both hands. Now, what I will say is, I think Tank Davis needs to move up the ladder and not reverse. Some people now are saying Tank Davis is ducking Devin Haney because now they want to focus on Pitbull Cruz instead of trying to work a fight with Devin Haney. And I don't think he's ducking anybody, to be honest with you, but hey, I think the right thing to do is to get that thorn out your side. And Floyd Mayweather, he's close with Tank Davis, and I'm sure he's given us some advice and said, look, you got to right this wrong. And that could be why Tank and his team want to come out here and fight Pitbull Cruz. I mean, you look at Mayweather. I mean, Tank, for the most part, is kind of following in the footsteps of Floyd. When Floyd had to set a controversy with Luis Castillo, Floyd came back and, handled the business. Then he had the whole thing with Maidana. Then he came back and handled the business, although he almost... Well, he did get tranquilized in that second fight with Maidana, but it was the end of the round. But Floyd was in trouble. He was in trouble when he had hunched his shoulders up to the temples on his head and went back to the corner, kind of high stepping. Floyd's ass was in trouble. With that being said, for Tank Davis going forward, we'll see what happens, man. But for those of us who really want to see Tank and Devin fight, Tank and Shakir fight, let me tell y'all right now, Tank Davis' team has already said Pitbull Cruz is more than likely going to be the next fight. So we'll see how that goes. But that being said, shout out to the veterans all 7 continents for the individual put this slide together. That's cool because the information is right there in front of us. But we'll see what direction this goes. And one last thing that I wanted to point out when it comes to this Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, and you see that supposedly did over 1 million buys. First of all, that's no one who with the right credibility has come out and said that, right? Second thing is they're not discerning between domestic and global, and that's something else that I think we should know. And thirdly, you got this whole damn thing with the zone charging people 10, 11 times for the fight. So once they clear all that up, and then I think we'll see what those numbers look like, and hopefully they're really good numbers for those guys. Hopefully those guys make some good money, man. But I just think right now, I'm not so sure that it's at 1.4 million or 1 million. But I hope it is for them because, I like to see these guys win. But that being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. I'm in the breeze.